Guys, we're in our series Testify, where we're working through different people's testimonies and stories and talking about different ways that they've seen God move. Today you're going to be absolutely blessed like crazy. The verse that we're building the whole series off of is Revelation 12:11, and it just says this: they overcame him. They're talking about the enemy and sin and death and all those things and that are encompassed in the evil one. They're like, they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. They did not love their lives so much as to shrink from death. And so last week we had Vicky up here, and Vicky shared, and she did a good job, didn't she? I mean, you guys enjoy having Vicky up here? I thought she did amazing, man. Yeah. So today we've got Eli and Kendra, and we're going to talk about part of their story. And one of the things that you're going to notice about them if you listen in is more than all the kind of dynamic parts of their story, and there's some really heavy stuff, man, the purity of their faith is really cool. Like, I knew Eli and I spent a lot of time together. We're in I used to call it a triad. They changed the name to quadriad or something because they're too smart for me. But we're in this thing together where we meet all the time, me and Nick and Trent and Eli. So I got to know him, didn't know Kendra really well. But man, as they're telling their story, one of the things we kept coming back to is there's this simplicity of faith in them that I would ask, well, why did you do that? And they're like, well, because that's what a Christian does. That's what someone that loves Jesus do. And I'm like, no, I know that's what they do, but why did you do it? And they're like, because that's what Jesus did. And there's this simplicity of their faith that is absolutely beautiful. So Kendra and Eli, if you guys will come on up and join me on stage, would you guys give them a hand real quick? You know how bashful Eli is. So, this is going to be really hard for him to be on stage and talking. So I got you that one. And I muted it so you won't know. No, Kendra, yours is not muted, so we're going to have fun. All right, so for those of you that don't know Kendra and Eli, this is Kendra, in case you didn't know. So Eli's that one. Kendra's this one. Kendra is a speech pathologist, a mom to a whole bunch of kids, which we're going to talk about today. Eli, the question for Eli is, what is his actual title? Because nobody really knows, right? He's like the Willy Wonka of everything. My joke is he's Tuttle's Elon Musk. So what is your actual title?
My actual title is Director of Business Development.
Director of Business Development.
And Assistant Chaplain.
And you're an insurance agent.
Right.
And a spy on the weekends. And so you've got like all that other stuff going on.
And if I told you, you know how that goes.
Yeah, no, it was good. What's up, man? So both have graduate degrees, right? You guys, so undergraduates where?
I did my undergraduate work at Mid-America Christian University.
I did all mine at UCO.
UCO, which is, because I always forget.
University of Central Oklahoma.
Okay, and then graduate degrees?
From Southern Nazarene, and she did hers all
UCO again. Okay, cool. Dating 20 years, married 15 years. I know when we were talking about the story, they met in 7th grade, and Eli said Kendra wouldn't give him the time of day. And then when he was 16, she's like, maybe. And so it worked out, I guess. Yeah. It's working out, maybe is what we should say. 2 sons, you got twins, right? I cannot say their names without messing up. Ian and Nolan.
Yes.
Right? And then 3 other children that you're currently fostering.
Yes. Yep.
Right. All right. So everybody gets these questions. Favorite band? Who you got?
A person that I will put on my Alexa every time is Adele.
Adele.
Yeah.
What's up? That's awesome. Yep. All right.
And I'm gonna turn on T.I., which is rap music. I apologize for that.
T.I.
Church, but
all right.
That's what I like.
So he works with Kirk Franklin a lot, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So that's why. So maybe not. So go home and listen to T.I. on Eli's recommendation. No, maybe don't. Yeah, maybe not. Sport or activity in high school? What was your jam?
I did softball and like student council stuff.
Okay. Yeah. And the student council thing, I mean, you were like president of which class? All
Classes.
of them? Or?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, okay. Awesome. Not all of them, but some of them. All right.
Right. I did a little bit of everything. I did, football, basketball, baseball, ran track. But the thing I was best at was just school, like the actual school part of school.
Isn't that sad? Don't you all just want to be like, wow, I'm so sorry.
It's kind of ridiculous.
No, so you were good at school.
Yep.
That's awesome. And test taking specifically, right?
Absolutely, yeah. You give me a test and I'm on it. Like that's
okay.
I kind of enjoy it.
Wow. We could unpack that all day long, but this isn't therapy. Right. So candy bars and treats. What's your favorite candy bar or treat?
Anything sour.
Anything sour.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. Junior's Cheesecake from Brooklyn, New York.
That's very specific.
Very specific. That's what I'm going for.
All right. Something about your spouse that people here might not know, but that you would love for them to know about your spouse.
Eli, probably He loves football, baseball, but like his favorite sport to watch is softball. And he's done the announcing for like College World Series and Big 12, and he's a good announcer.
Isn't that crazy? So like, I didn't know that. I mean, some serious like announcing type stuff. How about for Kendra? What's something about Kendra?
We talked about, I forgot, what did we talk about for you? Remind me. You got to remind me. I forgot.
What amazes him about you? Go ahead.
That's it. I remember now. Party planning. Like if you need a party planned, whether the budget's $50 or $50,000, she will throw you the best party that you've ever had. Like it's unreal. Right. And other people in this room, because I see heads nodding right now.
All right. What's up? So party planning.
Right.
Very good. And then what's something you love about TCC?
I love that our church is old and it has a history and it builds on that, but it's still really attractive to young couples and families, and it's never held us back.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I like that we refuse to be defined by our labels. Rural church, that's a label, but we don't let that define us. Small, we don't let that define us. We just refuse to be defined by our labels.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. So we just go, we're chasing Jesus, and we'll just figure it out along the way, right?
Right.
Good. So I want to jump into your part of your story. Your guys' story is, crazy, right? As we talk about all the different things, you guys were campus pastors on a university for a while. Yeah. You've been to China. So there's a lot of stuff. But I specifically want us to talk about when you guys got ready to start your family, because people may not know this, right? Like I know when I first met you guys, it's like, oh, really well put together. Maybe life's been easy for them. And then you start hearing the story and you're like, no, where you're at is a choice that you guys have made, a choice because of Jesus, a choice about each other, which we'll talk about a little bit. But, if you don't mind, talk to me about where you at in life and you make this decision to start a family and how that initial part went.
Yeah, so we dated 5 years before we got married right before our senior year of college, finished that, went into grad degrees, finished those degrees, and been married 4 or 5 years at this point. And so at that time, we're looking at each other like, okay, we're fixing to kind of venture off into career world. It's time to start a family. And so we start trying to have a family, and month after month after month, nothing happening.
And you said, Kendra, that they had told you kind of if you try to have a family and after a year, if nothing's happening.
That's what all the blogs say, give it a year.
Yeah, give it a year. And so you get to the end of a year.
Well, month after month is just, it's heartbreaking,
right?
Because it didn't happen. And so you just move your future back, another month, another year. We get to that point, it's like, wow, we need to do something. We need to check on it.
So at that point, you go to the doctor, you find a doctor that specializes in these things. You go to the doctor, and the first thing they do is they start testing people. So I'm thinking, cool, I got tests, that's my thing. I'm a passer. I'm not worried about this. Right. So test her, she checks out, everything's good. And for the first time in my life, I fail a test. So didn't really know what to do with that. And so at this point, not only have I, quote unquote, failed the test, now like this whole thing's like, in my eyes, like this is my fault.
Right. And Kendra, we talked about that a little bit, right? Like, because you said when we were talking about this, you felt responsible, but on your side, you didn't see it that way, right? Necessarily like you're to blame, or you didn't look at Eli that way at all.
It was always us together.
Right.
And this was an issue we had to face together, no matter what. It wasn't his fault, but he struggled with that.
Yeah. That's a really real feeling to have, though, right? Is like, man, this is on me.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a huge weight to know that you can't provide that. At that moment in life, it's like the one thing she really wants.
Right.
I can't give that to her.
Right.
And so the doctor tells us that. Not only does the doctor tell us that, but when you're dealing with fertility stuff, there's like stages you can go through. There's levels of treatment. And he basically said, hey, don't pass go, do not collect $200, go straight to in vitro, IVF. That's your only option now at this point.
Right.
And not only that, we're going to have to do the really technical, really expensive type that, I don't know, decreases your odds or what, but it's going to be a lot harder for you guys.
So odds are against you. It's going to be expensive. You guys are rolling in dough because you're pastors at the time, right? There's money everywhere. Right. So that money's not an issue.
Right. First year of her job, I'm a pastor at this point.
And in full-time grad school, he's still finishing that up. We're just paying for that. Like every little bit we get in, we give back to Southern Nazarene. So we have no money.
So you get ready to go through the in vitro process. Do you mind talking to just a little bit? What's that like? Because I don't some of us have no idea.
Yeah, it was heartbreaking, but at this point, we were still kind of naive a little bit. I mean, we're like, yeah, this is gonna go great.
Right.
Everything else has gone great. This is just our backslide. You know, we're gonna cruise through this. We didn't really know anyone that had done it.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to one other person, and it went good for her. So I was like, okay, it's gonna go good. And so you get into it. It's several months of stuff. It's not like a 2-week process, but you take tons of hormones, tons of shots, fill your body, you grow these eggs that are hopefully gonna be good enough when the time comes, and you feel like crap.
That's awesome.
And everything hurts, and you have to take all those drugs at the right time, and everything costs thousands of dollars at this point,
and it's all a gamble too, right? I mean, there's no guarantees.
It's all a risk. And that's one thing we struggled with was, do we put all our money in this chance, or do we try to go adopt, or what do we do with this? And I struggled with that for a while, and Eli did too. Like, this is just a chance. This may not happen ever.
But you had a pretty passionate desire, right? Like,
well, I think most women do, and to carry a baby.
Yeah.
And all my family had always done well with that. So I was like, I should be able to do this. So, but like, I just read a lot of things at that time, and I read a book called Hannah's Hope, and it said, God made us in his image because he wanted us in his image. And the fact that you have the desire to create something in your own image, or your husband and you image, it's a real thing, and it's not something you should feel bad about.
Well, yeah, I know, because we were talking about that sometimes in Christianity, there's this sense of like, well, Jesus is enough, right? And it's like, well, yeah, he is. And yet this desire is real, and it's okay to have. I mean, I think one of the things about your story I love is you gave yourself permission to want the things that were okay in life without going, well, to be a good Christian, I just have to be content. Because I think discontentment can be a part of Christianity at times, and desire can be a part of Christianity.
Oh, for sure. I think that's what makes you take the next step.
Right, you keep going. Right. So you go through in vitro. How many? We're talking about trying to produce eggs, and so how many eggs?
You try to grow them, and you try to be the best at it you can.
Yeah.
I think I got a baker's dozen, is what they told me when I went into the ultrasound. You got 13.
It's very Oklahoma that they would use a donut terminology for something like that, but.
And then they grow, and they watch them every other day, and you pray about them, and you hope that they do good, and then you go through surgery.
Right.
And they take them out.
And that's a whole painful process too, right? Because anatomically, your body normally will produce 1 or 2 eggs, and now you're talking about 11, 12, 13 of these things that you're trying to nurture at the same time.
Yeah, and you're trying to make them extra big. Like, they grow them extra large. I got to that point. They took them out, and then that went good. And then Eli gives his part, and then they put them together in a petri dish, and all that costs, thousands of dollars.
Right. And awkward. I mean, I'm sure there's an awkwardness about it.
It's hard, and it's scientific, and it's not fun.
Right.
Yeah.
So how many eggs did you guys end up having? You had a baker's dozen, and then you go through this process.
Yeah, so then after that, they call you every day for 5 days, and they'll update you. And so the first day, it's like you lost half of them.
Which is devastating, right? Because I know we talked in my naivety. I can be like, oh, okay, and not realize that represented the potential for life.
Right. So it represents the potential for life. So now you've lost those,
right?
And you've lost kind of increased odds, and you're also losing the chance to kind of freeze those for later,
right?
As well, which would be a great thing. And so so the first day you lose we lose half of them. The next day I think we lose a couple more. Get down to I think the 5th day I think we had 4. No. 4th day we had 4. The 5th day, which is the day they decide, they call you, and we have 2.
Right.
Which is how many you want to put in. It'd be great to have extras, but 2 is what they'll put in.
Now you guys were telling me though there's a grading system on that whole process too, right? Which your answer killed me on this. So, but I mean, talk to me about the grading system.
They pull you back right before they have surgery again, to insert them. But the doctor comes in, and he has this picture of these 2 embryos that have made it this far, and they give it a grading system, and he says we grade it on, like a scale, like ABC,
like school
grades.
grades.
We're like, oh yeah, we're gonna get 8.
Right. Yeah.
I love this. You're like,
No
yeah,
doubt.
we got this.
A plus, maybe. Like
Yeah.
they may bump the scale
These
up,
for sure.
for these two.
And they said, well, these are E's. And we're like, what's an E?
If you're not familiar, that's the letter schools don't use. That's right before F. So, like, if schools use that letter, we're like between D and F.
So what on the one hand, like I grieve for you, on the other hand, I'm rolling inside because I'm thinking I could see you guys be like, I never got an E in my life. You got to be kidding me, man.
Right. Right.
Just take that back. Like, I was furious a little bit. And heartbroken all at the same time because I was like, our chances are low anyway, and then this is not what we wanted.
So you go through the process. Now, they're inside of you. You're carrying them. There's got to be some fear and anxiety. It can't, like I think, yay. But I mean, like you go home. What's that like?
It's the worst part.
Yes.
That's the worst part. It's just you have to lay on your back for 2 straight days. You try not to sneeze or cough or
move too much,
or drink something cold. Like you're just making this stuff up, but you're just trying to do your best. You don't want to let anybody down.
Yeah, that's an interesting part though, I think, of that whole process, because everyone's with you in it. There's this added weight of like, I'm carrying their joy and their expectation, which I would have never thought about. I would think, you're in this, but feel responsible to the people who are cheering me on too. That's hard. So you get to 8 weeks and you find out what?
Well, you go in after a couple weeks and they take your blood, and our number was okay.
Okay.
It was just right on the borderline. And they said, come back in 2 weeks or 2 days, make sure it doubles. And it barely doubled. So we're like, okay.
All right. So at this point, you're officially pregnant at that point.
Officially pregnant.
Okay.
You wait till about 6 or 8 weeks, I don't know, to do with the ultrasound.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go in, and we had one baby. And so we were excited. And then they said, well, there's another little spot that we need to make sure goes away. So come back in 2 weeks. We went back at 2 weeks, and we have 2 babies.
Yeah.
And
which you're excited about. Yes. Right. Yeah, I was going to say.
But initially you go in and there's one baby. And so like you're excited that, hey, this thing worked, but still there's that sense of loss because you put 2 in. You put 2 viable embryos in. And so still all along the way, there's this sense of we lost something.
Yeah, I think that's the part of your guys' story that surprised me that I hadn't thought about, is how much grief is in the process, how much loss is in the process. Because I'm always thinking if the outcome is a baby, I forget, but there was a lot of loss leading up. But you guys were killing me the other day when we were talking, and you said you had 2, double our money. You're like, good investment, because I know you're an investment guy. So that was like a big deal for you.
Yeah, once there was 2, it's like, man, that's more bang for my buck right there. Like this thing
so you're
panned out.
So you're carrying the babies, things are going well. Tell me about week 30.
The blood pressure became an issue. It would start spiking, and we were just watching it. They put me on bed rest, and they're like, just watch it. Make sure you look for these symptoms. Eli went to Panama on a mission trip and left me at home and came back. And
we do not sanction that as a good husband move, but
guys, don't do that. Just right.
And then at 34 weeks, we'd been in the hospital a couple days before that to check it out, and everything went back to normal, and they sent me home. And then at 34 weeks, we rushed to the hospital with all the symptoms, and I had a seizure. They took the baby's emergency C-section.
So, but you arrive at the hospital like Kendra style, right? Like, hey, all right, whatever. I'm just here for a checkup, and they've got a chair, and they're wheeling you around and scrubbing him up.
I was like, I'm still cool. Like, I can't see out of one eye, and my I'm gonna be
We're
fine.
Good. Yeah. So she's gonna walk in. So they wheel her in. It's Sunday morning. Shift change is happening, so there's lots of nurses and extra people.
And you got to get to church.
Right, we're going to get for church. I think Karen's getting ready to play the piano, and my parents are getting ready, and we're calling them, and we go in, and I mean, it wasn't 30 minutes, and she has a full seizure.
Which is a dad, like I mean, in that moment, what are you thinking, right?
In that moment, you're thinking, what is going on?
Right.
And then you're thinking, what did I do? Like, what's going to happen? What's this going to turn out like? You got 3 people involved in, you got your wife and 2 babies that you're like, oh my goodness.
Right.
And I'm just trying to stay calm. I'm just trying to maintain my composure because me freaking out does.
Right. And you want to be there, right? You're like,
Yeah.
I know if I lose it, I don't get to be in the room.
Right.
And I had to be there for. I can't imagine seeing my wife in that situation and how helpless, it feels in that moment of going, I don't know what's going to come next.
Right. No, there's a lot of that throughout this whole thing. I don't know what's coming next.
Right. But there's also this faithfulness of like, I'm just going to keep walking, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So the babies are delivered, but you talk about you're out of it for how many days before you really come to and realize you're now a mom who just gave birth.
3 days.
3 days.
3 days to come out. They put me kind of under, a bunch of medicine. And so 3 days later I woke up and they had to convince me those kids were mine.
Right. Because there is that sense, right? You're like, here's your babies. You're like, I don't know.
They look a lot more like than this. And
yeah.
I'm not real sure what
and so now, you're going home, you got 2 new babies who, that's a whole brand new thing, but now you're trying to heal as well, because that whole process is just rough on the body. So speeding it up just a little bit, your story's going well, you got these kids, they're growing. Now the boys are how old? 3 or 4?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you make a decision because that desire is still there.
Yep.
Still want to expand and extend our family. And so you guys make a decision to go back into in vitro, right?
Yeah.
So tell me just a little bit about those, that kind of cycle of events.
Yeah, so we decide that we want to, again, expand our family, go back to in vitro. So we know how this goes now.
And we don't remember quite like we probably should. How rough it was.
Right. We forgot the bad parts. So we jump back into it. We do a cycle, which is all the shots, all the medicine, all the rigmarole of all that stuff. Get to the end of it, and they make that phone call to us after they put the eggs in or the embryos in, and they say, "Hey, it worked." And we're like, "Yes, did it again." And then we go in for, is it the second ultrasound?
Yeah, we go in at 7 weeks. And there's a baby, and there's like a flutter of a heartbeat, and
which would be exciting, right?
Yeah, which is awesome.
And we go back, I think, at 10 or 11 weeks.
Yep.
And the baby had died. There was no heartbeat.
Right.
And gosh, it's hard to see on an ultrasound because we had seen a lot of ultrasounds. And that one wasn't good. And so he turns off the screen and tells us to schedule a DNC and come back. And so I go home. A couple days later, when I'm supposed to have the DNC, I lose the baby at home. I miscarry at home, which is super painful and super, it's hard.
It'd be a traumatic experience, man. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's like labor pains for nothing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then going through that. So then you guys decide, we're trying in vitro again.
Well, you just pick yourself up, and just you're like, okay, well, what can we do next? And
there's still that desire,
right? On that,
right.
We tried again, do the whole thing again,
and this thing, this is just like ravaging your body each time, right? It's hormones and the process.
It's months too. You take months to heal from the miscarriage thing, and then you do months of the IVF and. This time nothing worked.
So first time you get the twins, second time you lose the baby, which is a real loss. And I think sometimes we forget that, when a mom carries a child, I think sometimes without meaning to, we can be kind of insensitive and just be like, well, you can have another one or you can adopt and forget like this was a child you carried. So now you're the third one. The third one doesn't work.
Yeah.
And then tell me about the fourth one.
Fourth one, we decide, hey, we're going to try again. That desire is still there. That desire in her heart is still there to be pregnant, to have a baby, those kind of things. And so we try a fourth cycle, go through it again. Again, we get the call. Yes, it worked. And so, man, this is awesome. And then we basically repeat what happened in the second cycle, where first ultrasound, heartbeat, second ultrasound, no heartbeat, another miscarriage. At home, and this time, she remembers exactly when that happened.
Yeah. Well, my niece Emery was born, and this time I didn't schedule a DNC. I was like, I want that baby to stay inside of me as long as it can. And we went to see Emery, and came on the way home. I had a miscarriage. But I think it gave me, like, oh, no, you still want a baby. Like, I still do, but I'm not going to carry one again.
Yeah. So at that point, you come to that place of like, okay, carrying a child's not going to happen. It's got to be hard too, right? Because my guess is you're looking at Emery and you're like, yes, I'm celebrating that. But there's a grief there too. And I think sometimes we live in those tensions of it's not always one or the other, you know?
No.
And so for people to have grace for you, I think in that moment to go, it's okay for you to be happy and sad. I know I have a tendency to go like, how do I make you happy and in life and think, no, there's sad moments and it's okay to give yourself permission to be sad in those moments. We talked about struggling too. What were some of the things you're going through all this before we kind of transition a little bit? What are some of the things you guys had struggled with through this?
Well, you're always in that first moment, going back to that first moment when we found out that we couldn't have kids normally, that we were going to have to do IVF. I can remember being in the parking garage at Baptist Hospital and just feeling helpless.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't do it. Like for the first time in my life, I couldn't figure this thing out. I wasn't going to be able to do it. And so at that moment, we really, and we've articulated this later, but at that moment we had to decide, like, is this thing going to tear us apart or is this thing going to bring us together? Yeah. Because in that moment, there's no neutral. Yeah. Like you're not staying the same as you were before that moment.
One of the most powerful parts of your story for me personally was how much you guys talk about choosing, that we had this moment and we had to choose, are we going to believe Jesus or not? Yep. You also talk about choosing each other, which I think is probably great for every relationship. There is, and you said it, right? There is no neutral. Right. When you hit trauma, when you hit good times or bad times, you have to make a choice. Do I choose the person that I'm covenanted with, or do I choose this person or not? Because life's going to give you 100 difficulties and 100 outs. And so you guys just decided whatever happens. And I love this about Kendra, right? She looks across, she's like, hey, whatever's going to happen, we're doing it together. We're not going to be apart from each other, which I think is a pretty cool testimony.
Yeah, no, and that was fantastic. She gave me space to feel the things I was feeling.
Yeah.
And I tried to give her space to feel the things she was feeling. And we just leaned in to each other and our faith in God and said, we don't know why you're taking us through this, but we're going to go through it with you.
Yeah. Talk to me too, just a little bit maybe about, there's this disappointment for the sake of other people, which seems, like on the surface, we may be like, what, that's messed up. But you carry that, right? Like all the baby showers and the enthusiasm. I mean, talk about what that's like.
Yeah. You hate to bring too many people into the circle.
Most of it.
Right. Yeah. Because you don't want them on the roller coaster that you're on.
Right.
Emotionally. Like you don't want to drag them through that. I know that they want to be there and they want to pray for us and they want to support us, but like we can't take any more weight of expectation.
Yeah.
And so we kind of had to keep the circle small, and even that was a lot because every time we got a call, they knew we were getting a call.
Right.
And so every time we had a doctor's appointment, they knew we had a doctor's appointment. And so not only do you have to process this stuff yourself, now you've got to communicate to other people what just happened.
Right. Whether that's joy,
right,
or just devastation, right? And the reason I asked them to share that is I want to equip us to realize when people are going through moments, we have to do a better job of lowering our expectations of our part as spectators. Because I think I can go in and I can be so like, that I don't realize the weight that can put on someone who just is like, I don't know what's going to come next. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
People, will tell us they're pregnant or whatever. Me and Eli just look at each other. Oh,
yeah. So because there's a scar there, right?
There's a big scar.
Yeah. Well, let's just jump into the scars and calluses. So I think this is so big. That part of your story that just amazes me. You go through a process like that. There are real wounds. There's real scars. There's real calluses. How do you deal with that? And how do you not let that define you, right? Because a lot of people go through life, they get wounded and they just go and they're a shell of themselves and they hide out. Other people, they go through a scar or a wounding time and they're like, no, it didn't happen. What did you do, one, to, be honest about it? And then how do you live in the midst of scars? Because they're not going away. It's not like, I sang a great song at church and my scars went away,
right.
I mean, Jesus heals us, but it's a process.
Yeah. I mean, part of it is looking back on this process. We look back and we acknowledge those scars that we have. I mean, if you painted a picture of my heart coming out of high school, college, those kind of things, that's a pretty fresh, innocent heart. I hadn't been through much at that point. It's a pretty vibrant picture. If you paint my heart now, there's some pretty gnarly scars on that thing. And every once in a while, you'll feel one of those scars in something, and it reminds you of what you went through. but it also reminds you of what got you through that.
Yeah.
And so we have to just acknowledge we've been through this. It's a part of who we are now. It changed us.
Yeah.
That's not good or bad. It just is.
I'm always amazed, right? Because I think you guys giving yourselves permission to be wounded, I think is a very human thing that sometimes we don't do. The other part about you guys, though, that surprises me and it's really cool is you didn't use your scars as an excuse. Like they were a part of your story. They are a part of your story, but they don't define you. It's not, I went through this and therefore this is what I am. Nancy was listening to a testimony a friend of ours gave recently, and she talked about, I'm not a survivor, I'm a victor. And you guys have that very much like, hey, we've gone through this, but this won't be our excuse to live differently. Like, okay, we just got to figure out how to live through it, which I think is a powerful statement.
Yeah, and we just really don't know what other choice what else are you going to do?
Right. Well, I love, I would say I love your innocence in that, because a lot of people would go, what else are you going to do? I'm going to be bitter. I'm going to drink. I'm going to run. I'm going to eat. But you guys go, no, we're going to lean into each other and we're going to lean into God together, which I think is really cool. So I don't want to speed us up, but I do want to be sensitive to time. So, okay, so now you decide you're going to continue to extend your family. You're not going to be able to do in vitro anymore, so you're not going to be able to have natural birth. So I don't know, tell me what you decide to do and why real quick, maybe 3-4 minutes.
Yeah, so we're done. She, like she said, she knows she's not going to carry another baby. So we decide we're going to do an open adoption. Okay. So we go to a private adoption agency, which means like not a state agency. Private adoption agency, we're going to do an open adoption where we get to know the mom. She gets to communicate with us. We walk through the process of pregnancy with her. Hopefully there's some redemptive factor to that for her.
Right.
And the relationship continues after, the adoption happens. So we're going to get a baby, hopefully.
But what do you have to do? So how you get the mom to choose you is crazy. So talk about that.
So some adoptions, you go and you pick the kid. Like, I want that kid. This one, the mom picks you. So you put a book together of you, like your little sales pitch in a book. So pictures of your family, of the
scrapbook brochure.
Scrapbook brochure is exactly what it is, so that the mom can flip. And when they have a mom, they will show her books, and then she'll pick you or not based off of your book.
So moms start getting books. How long is it?
We go through this 18 months. Of them calling every once in a while saying, hey, we're about to show your book, really excited. And then they call back and say, well, they didn't pick you. And it's like, well, that's a dumb decision.
Right. That's all. You're like, how could you not? We were joking around. It's like showing a home. They have a home showing. Awesome. They didn't buy it. What's wrong with those people, man?
Exactly. Yeah. So there's all this, you're being constantly judged the whole time through,
right?
Which is a whole nother set of emotions.
Yeah.
And nothing happens, for 18 months.
Well, because if I'm you, right, there's that part of me not trying to, but it's like, God, I'm trying to make space for other people. This should be easier. But just because you do the right thing doesn't mean it's easy.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you think that doing the right thing or what God has called you to is going to be easy all the time, I'm sorry, you're wrong. I hate to burst that bubble, but part of our story is just leaning into the hard things and pushing through.
Right. So that's not working out, but then you guys decide you're going to foster.
Yeah. So then we decide, okay, that's not working out. That one, again, costs a lot of money. Let's look at the state, because they don't charge you so much to do the things with them. But to just straight adopt with the state, you've got to take like a kid over 9 years old. Right. Our boys are like 6 at the time, and it's like, well, we don't really want to mess that whole age progression thing up. Or you got to take a sibling group. So it's like, well, foster to adopt. You sign up as foster parents first and do the whole foster thing, where there's a chance you'll get them, they'll take them back. You'll get them, they'll take them back. Those kind of things.
And you were willing to do that, which I think was interesting, right? Fostering, it's so noble. You have to be willing to love and lose a child to be good at fostering.
Yes.
Well, we talked ourselves into being willing to do that.
So that was the thing, right? Like, I remember you said this. You said that all along the way you kept following the piece, but when it came to fostering, you felt like God said, just try it. And that was enough for you.
Yeah.
Well,
he's like, it's free. Just try it. Like, just sign up.
Right.
See what it is.
But what I love, for you guys, you're like, yeah. But I'm like, just try it. The kind of faith that it takes to obey that is huge, because most of us are like, okay, now download all the information, make a promise to me it's going to work. But that's not where you guys, you were just simply at maybe, and that's enough for you. right?
Yeah.
It's just such a cool part of your story. So you guys decide to try it, and then what happens?
Yeah, so we go through the process of they check your home out, they check you out, they do background checks on the people around us. All of our parents passed, thank goodness. And so
You guys weren't worried about you,
right? Wasn't us we
I
were
said,
worried
I
about.
met your
Some other
parents,
people.
so yeah,
Right.
some of the grandpa
Right,
people,
exactly.
yeah.
So we go through that. We get approved on a Wednesday, and on Friday we're having the boys' 7th birthday party, and they call us and they say we've got a 4-year-old and a 5-month-old. Will you take them? We say, yeah, but we're at a birthday party. And they're like, no worries, we'll drop them off there.
At the birthday party.
At the birthday party.
Wow.
It's like, okay, see you in 45 minutes.
Which I'm thinking the 40-year-old showing up at a birthday party, like my new house, right? Like, I mean.
Right. He's thinking he's got a gym, a bounce house, and endless cake.
He's like, this is awesome.
Yes. His bubble was burst later in the evening.
When you went to the house.
Exactly,
that's awesome. You're
right.
like, no, that's not it. This is it. So now you've got the twins, you've got these 2 fostering sons, but then something interesting happens, right?
Yeah, so that's in April. And then in October, we get a call from the adoption agency because that's still going on.
Still being judged.
Right? They're still judging us. We get a call from the adoption agency that a mom had picked us. She's going to have a beautiful baby girl. She picked us. She doesn't want an open adoption. It's going to be a closed adoption. So basically, they're going to call us when the baby's born, and we're going to go to the hospital and pick up a beautiful baby girl. And so this is October. She's doing November. So we set the wheels in motion. We remodel the house. We redo the upstairs so we can move the boys there. We get the other 2 boys in their room, and we get this beautiful pink nursery.
And people are doing baby showers for you. I mean, they're like in it with you, right?
Yeah, we're getting ready. So, like the whole
you
thing.
have to plan for this,
Right.
For a baby.
I love that Kendra has to explain that to me. She's like, look, dude.
You have to get somebody to, take over for work, and you have to get a babysitter for the other 4, and you have to just get stuff in order.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're getting all this ready. Day comes and passes.
So the due date is coming. We've got everybody on call. We've got babysitters lined up. Work is prepared. Like, we've got everything ready to go. It's football season, so we got practices. And we get a call from the phone number pops up on my phone one evening. It's the adoption agency.
Which you're thinking,
it's go time.
Pick up my new baby girl.
Yes. So answer it. Hello. She says, hey, I've got my manager here with me. And in that moment, you're like, that's not how it's supposed to go.
Right.
And so she says, the mother had the baby last week, and she decided to keep the baby.
Which I've got to think, in some ways, there's a very good, right? Like the mom's keeping the baby. That's awesome.
Right.
But there's a loss too of I'm not getting my daughter that I was waiting for, hoping for, is no longer a part of the picture.
Right. So there's that sense of loss again. There's a sense of joy again. There's added kind of shame and embarrassment because now you've brought all these people in. If you brought a gift to the baby shower, I'm sorry, it's probably in our attic somewhere. But we thank you for doing that. But yeah, so there's all that extra that goes with that. Yeah. And still now we've got
a lot more people involved in this.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And now we've got an empty nursery.
Right.
In our home that was prepared. So we're back to an empty room in the home, which for us, we've always tried to keep the rooms full. Whether that was hosting an Airbnb in our bonus room because we're crazy people, or, we always loved having the rooms full.
Right. So you got this nursery that's prepared and not a daughter.
And kind of a desire to have a daughter. I had never given myself that kind of once.
Yeah.
But it was exciting to get bows and, to think about hair and stuff like that.
Right. I know Eli likes shoes, so you had that part covered. But the rest of
she knew I was going to take care of the shoes.
Yeah. So then what happens next? Let's close this part out because I want to get to takeaways. But so then what happens?
So April we get the boys. October, November, all this happens. January 4th, I'm sitting at my desk at work. I get a call from Kendra, and she says, "Hey, the foster." The social worker called, which you never know what's going to come when the social worker calls. And the boy's sister, who we knew, she existed and she was in the town right around here. And the foster mom and dad are not going to keep her. They're basically dropping her off at daycare and not picking her up.
Sincerely, that's not like an analogy. That's what's happening.
That's what's happening.
She just doesn't get to go home today.
She has nowhere to go at the end of daycare today.
And she's
on a Friday.
5 years old?
No, she's 2.
She's 2, and she's been in how many homes now?
We are her fifth
home. 2 years old.
She comes with a rap sheet.
She
She had a history.
She got.
if you know Lori, man, it's like that's
Yeah.
probably the right term, a rap sheet. So.
Right. So we say, hey, we'll take her for the weekend. Like we've got this extra room, like it's ready for a girl. So we'll take her. She gets there on Friday. We realize that her third birthday is on Monday.
So 3 days.
Sunday. Yeah. So she's turning 3 in a couple of days, and it's like, oh my goodness. So we have a birthday party for her. Again, we said we'll keep her till Monday. We unfortunately didn't specify which Monday.
Right.
So we still have her. So
see, now you know though, right?
Right.
Next time someone
Be
calls
more
you, like,
specific.
which Monday?
Right.
That's awesome. Well, let's do this real quick because I do want to make sure we get to some takeaways because I think some of what's in your guys' heart, I want to make sure people understand how you understand your story.
Yeah.
You kept trying, and it's not just stubbornness. And I say it genuinely, right? Because some people could just go, oh, well, you're just stubborn people. There's a theology for you guys inside of you keeping trying. And I mean, can you hit on that? Maybe, talk about your view of your table, talk about your view of abundance.
Yeah, so all along the way, we've always felt that we kind of operate out of this abundance. I mean, the jobs we have, the home we have, all of those things, we kind of operate in abundance, and we've always wanted to open that up to others, and specifically the other. The Bible talks about the least of these, and so we've always had that desire to kind of open all of that up and share that with people, and so we've always kind of hoped to build a bigger table with that, not nicer, bigger things for us,
right?
And so that was always kind of our desire, was God's given us this for some reason.
That was one of the parts of your story that I really loved, is when you have an abundance, you ask why. You don't just go, oh, it's because I need nicer things. Like within you, there really is this sense of, if I have an extra bedroom, there's a reason I have an extra bedroom, right? Which I thought was cool. And then another thing you guys talked about that was really powerful for me is that idea that when you looked at your table, you went, I want more people at the table, not now we've got our perfect little family, we're done.
Yeah.
And the other one for me that was huge was you guys see yourself as the others at God's table, right? Maybe hit on that for a sec.
Yeah, in the stories we read in the Bible, God's always inviting the other people into his kingdom. And we realize, like, we're those people. Like, we're the others it's talking about in the Bible, us, Kendra and Eli, that God has invited to his table, even though we in no way deserve that.
Right.
We in no way deserve to share in all that he has.
I love that, though, because I know for me, if I'm not careful, the Pharisee in me can sit at the table and go, yeah, God, invite others, and not realize I'm an other.
Yeah.
Right. And so I can make space for others in my self-righteousness and not realize, no, I'm the other who needs to be. And so you guys have that, like, I'm the other, so I have to make space for my other others to be here with me. That idea of abundance. What about this preparation idea? Because you guys really do feel like the things you went through prepared you for different moments, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, like you said, very innocently, we've always just kind of said, God, whatever you have for us next, we'll go. Like, we'll go there. We'll do that thing. And we look back and we realize that a lot of these things he took us through, from all the way back in 2008 when we went to China, was preparing us in some way for what was to come next.
Yeah. Good.
And failed adoption prepared us for Lori. I mean, I think that was
we wouldn't have had room. We wouldn't have been set up for a girl in any way had we not gone through that.
And Lori, and I would say, I work with Lori on 4s and 5s on Wednesday. I say it's generally Lori needs you guys. I mean, that you guys are a great balance of, you know what, I'm going to discipline you to show you I love you. And now it's a moment of tenderness. And you guys are able to move back and forth between that, where I think a lot of times we're like, we're going to be tender or we're going to be tough. And Lori's a great example of someone who's like, hey, I need you to be both at the right time. And so to think, you didn't get a hope that you had, but you were the hope somebody else needed, I think is really cool. And I do I love Lori. I think she is wild and amazing. But she needs you two. She didn't just need a home. She needed a very specific home. And you guys provide that for her and provide that for her to this day, which I think is amazing.
Yeah. And all the kind of the loss that's involved in the cycles we went through, in some way prepares us for fostering.
Right.
Because there's always a chance when you're fostering kids that you'll lose them, that you'll invite them in your home, love them as your own, and then lose them. And so we in some weird way we're okay with that.
You've been through it, right? Because that's the thing I always want to encourage people with fostering is, don't go into it with a rosy picture. Like, go into it understanding you will be the one that's sacrificing and suffering in this process for the sake of another human being.
Right. And part of that is because we're healthy enough to handle that hurt.
Yeah.
And these little kids are not in any way healthy enough to handle the hurt they go through.
So let me ask you this. I know we still want to have some chance to worship after this. You guys are doing amazing, by the way. What do you do to keep going? What? Be as honest and vulnerable as you can be. What do you do?
We've always just wanted to do like the next thing. Like we don't like to sit and feel and think and that's none of that. It's just
figure out the next thing.
What we're gonna do next.
Right.
And when you go through a loss or a disappointment or something like that, it's next day. I mean, let's talk about like what are we gonna do now?
Yeah.
Like, and you kind of just have to. That's what keeps you going.
And sometimes the answer for that day is we're going to cry. Nothing. Like, we're going to be mad. We're going to be sad. We're going to, and then the next day you ask yourself, what are we going to do? And then one day you look up and it's like, well, we're going to try again. We're going to try this. We're going to try that. We're going to do something.
Well, I love you guys give yourself permission to hurt, but you don't give yourself permission to stay hurt. Right. I think that's one of the really cool things. You talk about the gain is greater than the loss. Maybe just 60 seconds. What does that mean?
Yeah. All the way through this, we realize that taking that next step, opening ourselves up to that pain, that loss, the flip side of that is what we gain from going through that process is actually greater than that loss. And we realize that living selfishly in our abundance is actually worse for us than adding to and adding crazy and potentially suffering loss through these things. We realize that, again, the gain is greater than the loss. So we got to put ourselves out there.
I love it, man. I hear you guys' story and I think of the gospel, right? Where Jesus is like, hey, you want to live? You got to suffer some loss. You got to give your life up. And what I love about you guys is there's no pretentiousness in that for you guys. You genuinely believe that God is worth it, other people are worth it, and it's okay for you to suffer a little bit for their sake. And I mean, if that doesn't look like Jesus, man, I don't know what does. And I say that genuinely to you guys. I love you. Look, when I read the Bible, I'm like, oh, there's Kendra and Eli. Like, I see you guys in there. I want to read a passage over you guys, and then I want to give you guys a chance to just, one thing you can say, whatever you want to say. One is I was praying and trying to read through the scriptures to go, man, what would I say to them? And one, I get the picture of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. I mean, if you guys know that story, they're standing there and they're like, look, here's what God can do, but I don't know what God's going to do. I just know what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for my faithful God no matter what. And I see you guys in that story, man. I see you guys standing in front of multiple furnaces going, look, my faith in God is huge and strong and mighty. That doesn't mean that there's not a furnace in front of me. And I don't even know what's going to happen if you chuck me in there. I just know I'm following Jesus. I'm following God. I love that about you guys. And so here's the psalm that I think about when I think about you guys is Psalm 46. God is our refuge and strength. He's an ever-present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear, though the earth gives way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam and the mountains quake with their surging. There is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy place where the Most High dwells. God is within her and she will not fall. God will help her at the break of day. Nations are in uproar, kingdoms fall. He lifts his voice and the earth just melts away. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. And then this part, which I do believe for you guys, come and see the works of the Lord. Like, come look at our lives. The desolation he's brought on the earth, he makes wars cease. To the ends of the earth, he breaks the bow, shatters the spear, burns the shield with fire. Be still and know that I'm God. I will be exalted among the nations. I'll be exalted in the earth. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. In my mind, like, that's your testimony is, hey, even when everything's crumbling, man, God's with us. God is good. So as the band gets ready to come up and we get ready to finish, you got the stage. You can say anything you want. What do you got? Each one of you guys gets to say one thing that you just like, hey, I want people to know this, man.
Yeah. When you struggle with infertility, you hate Mother's Day. It's like the worst day of the year. And God put me in that and put my birthday on that day, I think, for a reason, to show up and to suffer it. But I think it took me 11 years to convince myself of this, but you don't have to give birth to be a mom.
Yeah.
And I think anybody that needs to hear that.
Yeah, I love that you don't have to give birth to be a mom, and the idea of sensitivity on Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Like, hey, celebrate, but understand there's pain in that day too. I think is huge.
Yeah. And for me, I would just speak to the guys in the room, and I would just call you up and say, guys, when you're at the end of your rope, when you don't know what to do, guys, love your wives to the best of your abilities and lead them in that moment. Make the choice to lean into that moment with them and find a way to walk towards God with them. You know, I don't know what that looks like for you, but find a way to walk towards God, even when you don't know where that's leading, because ultimately that will get you through those moments.
Yeah.
But you've got to make that choice to not back away from that moment.
Dude, one of the things I love about you, Eli, is you're the man God's called you to be before you need to be. And I think so many times we're like, well, I'll be the man when it's time. Man, if you ain't the man now, you won't be the man now. And I look and I go, you know what? You got ready. You were faithful. And in those moments, your wife could lean on you. And so I love to call to men to go, hey, don't just step up when she's hurting. You step up now, because those moments will come and you need to be ready now so she has someone to lean on. So would you guys thank these guys real quick? So I'm gonna pray over you guys, and then we're gonna go back into worship real quick. God, I thank you for Kendra and Eli. What a beautiful story, man. You're a good God. You are faithful, and these are faithful people. I thank you that they can honor you and worship you through the pain, and they can celebrate through the victory as well. Man, thank you for their love of their boys. Thank you for their love of Jason and Junior and Lori. God, whatever happens, I just pray that they would know